Okay, everybody, we're going to get started today for our Introduction to Human Design webinar. I'm here with Michelle Vignona. Hi, Michelle. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Before we dive in, I just want to welcome you all to CIHS Enlighten. The Enlighten portion of the California Institute for Human Science is our public programs division, where we offer webinars like the one today, and continuing education and certificate programs, as well as community supporting events. So Michelle and I actually met at one of those events, and she's local to Encinitas, so I'm really happy to have her here and welcome her. And yeah, we're going to dive in. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end. So if you would, please jot down your questions. And then towards the end, we'll take a nice amount of time for Michelle to answer those. And as we get going, like I said, Michelle and I met at one of our local North County Wellness Connection meetings. And her interest and expertise in human design really piqued my interest. And I thought it would be a great topic to introduce to CIHS Enlighten. So thank you for being here, Michelle. Michelle is a transformative force behind individuals navigating life's pivotal moments. As a dedicated life and soul purpose coach and founder of Life Prep, she specializes in guiding people through milestones like college graduation, career shifts, parenthood, retirement, and more, fostering self-discovery and purpose alignment. She has a diverse background spanning corporate tech, higher education, nonprofits, and consulting, and she discovered her true calling in mentoring and helping others realize their actual soul's purpose. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Management and a Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership, as well as certifications in human design, Dharma coaching, trauma-informed life coaching, and mental health first aid. She's currently training in several modalities, including Reiki and somatics. Her unique combination of education and experience, coupled with her dynamic teaching style, empowers students and clients to embrace experiential learning for positive growth. Through one-on-one and group coaching, workshops, and courses, she leads others on a journey of deconditioning, self-discovery, alignment with their purpose, and embodiment of their highest self. Oh, I love your bio, Michelle. Thank you. And that's also part of the reason we thought this course and Michelle specifically would be such a good fit, because at CIHS, we offer mind, body, spirit, consciousness studies, and this falls right in line with that. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Nicole, and for that warm welcome. Really excited to be here to share this with your community.
Yes, we are too. All right. Well, I will turn it over to you. And like I said, save your questions, and we hope for you to stick around to the end. We also have a special deal for our upcoming course for those of you that are here today. So we'll look forward to that at the end.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me, and welcome everyone. Excited that you're here with us today to learn a bit about what I am going to be teaching in the 4-week course that we have coming up. I would first love to know if anybody here has any sort of familiarity with human design. So if you could just pop that in the chat, whether you are this is brand new to you, this is the first time you're hearing about it, or if you maybe have a little bit, maybe beginner, introductory level, or if you are more advanced with human design, just curious with everybody's level of familiarity here. So as you're doing that, I will go ahead and move into our presentation. So a very quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to start off, though, with a little disclaimer. So for those of you that don't have any experience with human design, it is, when you first get into it, especially when you first look up your human design chart, it is a lot to take in. So in this course, because it is only 4 sessions, not a ton of time that we're going to be spending together for each session, it's going to be a very high-level overview of some of the baseline or the foundational topics of human design. And it's really meant to support you in helping you understand your human design so that you can better navigate life. Now, I do want to mention also that this course, nor today's webinar, it's not meant to serve as a specific reading for you as an individual, nor is it meant to be a reader training. But the goal of it is to open your mind to just a new modality, a new form of science out there, and just to see where you can go with it. We're going to talk about how Ra Uruhu, who is one of is the original downloader of human design, he really intends it to be this big experiment. So as we go over things today, and like I'll say to everyone in the course, really just experiment and have fun playing with something new and see what resonates with you, and take what does resonate and leave the rest. So that's my disclaimer, because it is a lot. So, hopefully we understand where this course is meant to go and what it's meant to serve as a tool for today. But yes, what we are going to talk about is a little bit of an overview of human design. I'm going to get into the basics that I'm going to cover in each of the 4 sessions. And then if you have any questions or are interested a little bit further, I will have my contact info on a slide so you can see that. And then, as Nicole mentioned, we're going to have the course information, and there will be a QR code. So if you'd like to register, that's going to be available to you. And then there will be time for a Q&A. All right, looks like some folks have, okay, a good little cross section. So none, and yes, the incarnation cross numbers. Okay, that sounds fun. And we have a 3-5 generator here. That's fun. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing your thoughts on everything. Now, before we get too far into the specifics of the course, I did want to tell you all a little bit about me. So as Nicole mentioned, you can see a lot of those about me in my bio. I started off my journey working in corporate, and then right out of that, I went straight into the corporate sector, and right out of my undergrad, I went right into the corporate sector, and it was very fast paced, and there were a lot of things that I did enjoy about it. But when it came down to it, when you get to the end of the day and you're working, 6, 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and you just come home and you just get in the car and you start crying, you start to realize that something's off, and that's just not quite it. So I decided to go back to school, got my master's in organizational leadership, and from there transitioned into higher education. I actually spent a long time, and I'm still working with San Diego State University in some capacity. I'm actually the coach of their color guard, if you know what that is. That's the little video that's on the bottom there. But so I still have ties there, worked there for about 10 years, and it was closer to being in alignment with my Dharma and with what my human design really kind of points to, but it wasn't 100% it either. And so, dabbled a little bit in, combining all my passions, all of my experience with strategic planning and project management as a consultant, primarily for entrepreneurs and small businesses. All along, as Nicole mentioned too, I was a coach for these different performing arts, sat on the boards of nonprofits, and then kind of just one day had an aha moment as I was looking back. It's that famous Steve Jobs quote where you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only do that looking backward. And I realized that all along, in every role that I've had, no matter what capacity I was in, no matter what my title, I always found myself mentoring folks. And so I knew that that was just, as soon as I kind of verbalized that out loud, I was like, that's it. I need to do this full time, and I need to really make this something that I do to help folks that are going through these really pivotal moments in life that can be scary, they can be confusing, and there are often those times when folks feel lost. And so through my journey of becoming certified and working as a coach, human design became a modality that I really just fell in love with. And as I started to present it to all of my clients and the groups that I'm working with and some of my corporate clients, more and more folks just became interested in it because they found the permission that leaning into their human design had really given them to become fully realized or become fully authentic to maybe what they had known all along, but conditioning kind of kept them away from. So really just dove further into human design, which brings me to life prep and where I am today. And so, on a personal note, that's my dog there. His name is Beckham. He's my little old man. He's 15. He just had a birthday actually last weekend. So, very old for a little dog. And then this is my amazing husband, Mike, and then my two kids, Ava and Xander. They are lots of fun, bundle of energy. So, that's just a little bit about me. All right, now into human design. For those that might not be super familiar with it, without getting into too much of what we're going to be diving into further in the course, human design is essentially the science of differentiation. And so it is this really interesting synthesis of quite a few ancient wisdom traditions. So, again, as I mentioned before, Ra Uru, who originally downloaded human design, and it was a combination of the Kabbalah, the I Ching, astrology, and the chakra system. And when he kind of put this system together, there wasn't science at the time to kind of validate all the things that he was saying. But what I have really loved about this and what continues today is as science catches up to things that, we know, or some of us know on a deeper level, or can feel energetically might be true. Science is just finally catching up. And so about 10 years after he originally downloaded this, science caught up and was able to prove what he was saying. So in the course, we will get further into all of the history of it, what neutrinos are, and how those really play a big part in human design, and how science has proven what they are as well. So that's really fun to hear. And like I said, as science continues to progress, more and more facets of human design are being connected and proven, including some that connect genetics to things. And it's really fun to just continue to hear about those new developments. Human design also is meant to be a self-awareness tool. So human design, I like to think about it as kind of the ultimate personality test, if you will. I was always one of those that would take the quizzes in the back of the magazine. I'm aging myself, but either doing that, or, now there's like BuzzFeed quizzes. What pizza topping are you? Or what's your favorite ice cream flavor? What would you be? But those, and even things like as academic as the MBTI or Enneagram, any of those types of systems, depending on how you are in the moment, can really dictate the outcome of the quiz or the assessment, because you could be, you could have just had an argument with somebody, and so that'll influence the way that you answer the questions. Or, in one sphere, you could have a specific hat where you are a team leader, which would have you answer the questions in such a way, versus when you are, maybe in a familial setting or with your friends, and you might answer them in a different way. So while those are helpful in helping you get to know yourself, they are changeable, they are variable. Whereas human design is based off of the time, place, and date that you were born. And so those are unchanging. And so your human design will not change. It's there for you to then lean into and fully realize. So again, just helping you understand the design that was essentially imprinted on you when you were born. And like I mentioned before, too, it is a big experiment. So human design is really fun. And when I first encountered human design, I was at a retreat and I had my first reading, and it was like this person just knew me and even knew the things that I tried to hide away from myself or tried to hide away from the world, because we do carry a lot of conditioning that comes, from society or our family, or, different jobs that we work at, and any sort of system that we're around, social media. We can just start to take on this conditioning knowingly and unknowingly. And while some of that might be helpful, maybe in the moment, maybe for the long run, ultimately it's about living fully authentically. That's going to help you, and that's going to help you navigate life with more ease. And that's what human design is here to do. The gist is that if you lean into your human design and you live according to that, that you're going to experience more ease and flow. So we'll get into some of the benefits as well in a moment. But I do want to be clear on a couple of these other components as well. Human design is not for or against any religion. So it's not asking you to abandon a belief or believe in something else. So we don't have to worry about that there. It's also not meant to put you in another box or to give you a new label. So things again, like personality tests, they can be helpful in helping you identify with something, but human design actually is very different, and it's meant for you to think about your authenticity and your uniqueness in such a way that is freeing, and to help you, maybe like or sort of embrace those parts of yourself that maybe you did hide away because of the conditioning that you took on. For example, you know, I uh, I was taught at some point in life, not to be so bold or so direct with things, and maybe to be a little quieter. And so I sort of took that on. And then when I really dimmed that part of myself. And then when I learned about human design, I learned, for those of you that know what an incarnation cross is, um, I learned about my incarnation cross, and it's essentially the complete opposite. I am meant to really cut through any of the noise and any of the fluff. And so, by understanding that that's really who I was and allowing me to embrace and kind of turn back up that part of myself, things started to magnetize, things started to flow a little easier, because it's hard for anyone to live in a box that isn't really you. So again, it's this really fun experiment, but a really great permission slip as well. So also human design is not able to tell the future, and that's really important. Whereas astrology can be predictive, human design is not. That's not what this tool is meant for. And it's also as encompassing and as complex as it is. It's not only for a select few. But like I said before, can be overwhelming. So we are going to really break it down and just talk about some of those foundation elements that will really help you. And if you decide to go deeper into it, this will be a great springboard for that. So as I pull up this next part, just to talk a little bit about how human design can support you. So when you start to learn about things like your energy type, you'll be able to work more efficiently with that. For some of you out there, the world, the way that our, especially Western society, is set up, if you are a projector or a reflector, for example, you're not meant to work successfully in these 8-hour days, just as our school systems or some work systems have been designed. So again, these are just going to give you more insights into what your energy type is and how you can work with that better. You'll encounter fewer obstacles and really, again, find that ease and flow, especially when you start to use your strategy. And then when you couple that with understanding your inner authority, you're going to make more effective decisions. So that's really exciting. Your authority is where we're going to spend a little bit more time on, because I think it's one of those really great parts that we start to carry a lot of suggestions and recommendations from people. And just to give you a brief example of that, there's a lot of suggestions out there, like I said, of, how best to make a decision when you're faced with it. I'm sure we've all heard the sayings, oh, you should sleep on it. You'll know the answer in the morning. Or, oh, trust your gut, follow your heart, make a pros and cons list. All of those are not inherently bad suggestions, but it might not be the way that you're specifically designed, because for some folks, it is right for them to trust their gut, but not for everybody. For some folks, they do need to sleep on it. For some folks, they do need to talk about it with other people, but it just depends on your design. So when you know that, you'll be able to tap into that and then make decisions from that aligned place that's personal and unique to you. Also, when you understand things, these specific themes, so you have a signature and a not self theme in human design, when you know those, they can kind of help you stay on track. So I like to think about them. If anybody's gone bowling and they have the little bumpers on the lanes, they kind of help push you back to that middle so you can find that alignment and really course correct when you need to. So understanding those are really helpful, so that, again, you don't have to work harder with everything. You can just work a little bit more smart. And then we also have better communication, and you can navigate your relationships better when you really lean into your profile. Your profile is made up of two different numbers, and those are your lines. And so when you understand what each of those lines represent, then you can understand what they represent possibly in those around you as well. I can tell you, understanding the profile of my children has really helped in parenting. And I know for anybody else that's a parent out there, anything that we can get to help us navigate those, formative years and then some is going to be, really helpful. So that's been really great to learn. And then you can also become really magnetic. There are quite a few components in human design that will help you understand how you best magnetize things to you. I know, manifestation is kind of a buzzword, but there is a specific variable in human design that helps you understand what your manifestation style is. And so there's really a lot that human design can do, and we will be scratching the surface, but trust me, it's going to be well worth it. It's so many freeing things from it. So as I mentioned before, when you first look up your human design, and I will in the course show you where to look it up, but you will be presented with something like this. So this is called a bodygraph or a human design chart. And as you can see, there's a lot going on and a lot to it. We aren't going to talk about that today, but I just want to show you what this is and help you understand that we will learn, although we're not going to learn about every component, we're going to learn how to navigate a lot of these and what they mean. So the big overview of human design in general. So now as we get into session 1, so we will of course go over the full outline of what we're going to be doing together and the objectives and hopefully what you're going to be gaining from the full course. We're going to be continuing what I started talking about, the history of human design. And with human design, as with a lot of things, there become multiple schools of thought. So we're going to talk about pop human design and source human design. I do like to teach a combination of both. I think that's really important to understand, both the original conception of everything, but also translated in such a way that makes it applicable to today, in today's languaging, and how society has evolved. So I think that it's really important to understand both. And then we're going to start off learning about the 9 centers in human design. So I'm going to go back one slide so you can see, but the shapes are what we call in human design centers. If you are familiar with the chakra system, that's where they were derived from, but they did evolve a little bit from 7 to 9. So we'll get more into that as well. So that's our first session together. And then moving into session 2, we dive into the 5 human design energy types. And so you'll see somebody in the chat is a generator. So that is one of the human design energy types. There's also manifestor, manifesting generator, projector, and reflector. And those we are going to spend quite a bit of time on because there are secondary components that are based off of what your energy type is. So that really is the baseline of what you should learn as you start to dive into what human design is and understanding your unique design. We're also going to go from there and we're going to understand the strategy that's associated with each of those energy types, as I mentioned. And then we're going to get into authority. So our inner authority, like I mentioned before, there's different suggestions that you may have gotten over the course of your life, but we're really going to suss out which one makes the most sense for you based off of your inner authority. And for those, there are 7 of those. Then we're going to move into session 3, where we get into our themes. So you're going to discover your signature and your not self theme. And there's going to be quite a few exercises that we will use and we're going to practice. So it's going to be very interactive. We'll be able to maybe break out into small groups or use the chat feature depending on how many people there are that join us. And we're going to do a little, I like to call it experiment and feedback. I don't really like to use, even in my coaching, I don't like to use the word trial and error. I don't think anything is an error. There's something to be learned from everything. So we're going to have some really fun exercises around how you can take what you learned from session 2, your inner authority, and then apply that to working with your themes as well and seeing seeing what you see, and that's going to really help you tap into those different parts of you that maybe you haven't listened to before. And then the last thing we're going to do in session 3 is look at your definition. So if we go back to go a couple slides back, you will see all of the centers that we talked about. There's 9 of them. So definition is an introduction to something called circuitry. So it's how the energy flows in your body. So how these different centers are connected or not connected is actually what determines your definition. And now understanding your definition is really important, because that is how, at a very high level, how you take in and process the outside world, whether that's information or energy. And so there's a lot to be learned from there. So I mentioned how human design can help you in personal development. It can also help you in parenting. I have found with quite a few clients that definition and understanding their definition has really helped them as either an entrepreneur in particular, or if they have, a passion project that they're trying to get off the ground. Also, if they are in business and they are leading a team or a part of a team, it really helps them better understand how they work and interact with the world and the energies. So that could be the environment or even other people around them. So this is a really helpful component too. And then moving into session 4, we are going to talk about the 6 lines and the 12 profiles. So you'll see in the chat, somebody put they were a 3-5. I am a 1-3. And so those are the profiles, and they're made up of the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but there's only 12 variations. So we're going to talk about what those mean for you. We can talk about the lines separately. And then when you put the lines together into a specific profile, they take on even more of a unique connotation. And so again, really helping you as you start to put together all of these pieces, understand how you were innately designed. And so the more that you can understand that, and the more that you can play with that through these exercises and through these practices that we are going to do, in session together, but also at home on your own, hopefully you'll find some really juicy nuggets and take that information and see how it allows things to either open up for you or how it helps you flow or magnetize. And so I'm really excited. It's going to be so fun. I just love introducing folks to this. And so that last piece that we're going to do is I want to make sure that you know how to take everything that you've learned and put it into practice. So that's one of the things that I do with my clients all of the time is it's not enough to know something. Yes, knowledge is power, but it goes a step further. It's applied knowledge, right? And so we have to learn how to take this from theoretical, esoteric information, and how do we embody this? How do we live this every day? So I want to make sure that you get not only the information, but the tools and the opportunity to practice so that you can make this part of your life, and so that this becomes really helpful and supportive for you along your journey, whatever that is. And hopefully it's helpful and beneficial in multiple areas, because I, for one, have definitely found it to be so. So that's really just an overview of what we're going to cover. It sounds like a lot, but I promise it'll all make sense when we get into it and we really dive in and start to practice. And if you have any questions, this is some of the information that I have on what I do. So like I said, human design readings, I do one-on-one coaching. We are currently booking our next cohort for the group coaching that I do. And I do have various workshops coming up that are specific to either parenting or entrepreneurship or human design, vision boarding, all kinds of things. So I welcome you. If you have any questions about this class or this topic in particular, feel free to email me. And it is Michelle with 1 L. So Michelle@lifeprep.me, or you're welcome to book a connection session if you just want to chat more and see if this might be the right place for you to go if you are interested in human design and hoping to get something specific out of it. And thank you for popping that in the chat for me. And then lastly, here's the rest of the course information. So again, thank you for joining us today and for being here to even just learn about something. If this is your first time, I applaud you, because it's sometimes scary to go into something that we don't know about, but it can be really eye-opening, and just as the courses are, right, enlightening. So the early bird rate that you get for being a part of this is $199. Other than that, it becomes the regular rate at $249. And you can see the dates and times. You can scan the QR code to register there as well. So I see those are in the chat. And let's see. Yeah, I am fully ready for some questions.
Thanks, Michelle. That was a really nice overview. And I think it probably piqued a lot of people's interest as it did mine. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've looked up my chart before, and it is overwhelming to kind of look at all those pieces. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to kind of being able to take it apart, and
Yes.
understand it better. So yeah, I'm sure that there are questions out there. If you would like to raise your hand and speak your question to Michelle, you can do that, or you can put it in the chat box or the Q&A box. I'll kind of monitor all those different ways that we can get our questions to Michelle. But I also really love how it's just kind of personal development, but it can also really be professional and relationship development too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am a mother as well, and I was like, oh, that would be a good thing to look up my kids' human design and understand them better for sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe a question how does it relate to like modern day astrology? Because I know astrology, I feel like is kind of obviously it's an ancient tradition, but it's been kind of a buzzword lately. And
Yeah.
what parts of astrology does human design take into consideration?
Yeah, so it takes really from the time that you were born. So when we get into basically the history of it and what the essence of human design is human design basically posits that when you're born, the sun is kind of not just the sun, the celestial bodies are kind of beaming down, these things called neutrinos, which are the smallest measurable particle. And they do carry, this is the component that science later proved, they do carry some mass with it. And so it's going to be so unique, whatever was, the placements of the planets in the sky and also the sun. So the sun is going to make up about 70% of those neutrinos that kind of imprint upon us. And then all of the rest of the surrounding celestial bodies. So the stars, everything else in the galaxy that's around the planets, whatever's there at the time. So that's where you'll see kind of the astrological component of what's happening during that specific time. And those are going to give you a certain set of qualities. So just like if you were to know your sun, moon, and rising in astrology, they tend to speak to different facets of yourself. That's kind of what they do for human design as well, but they pull it apart even more, to even more granular, I should say. So that's really where the astrology part comes in, and it really just affects that at that moment. And then I would say it moving forward, it doesn't, aside from affecting your design, it's really helpful to kind of work in tandem with your human design and your astrology. So you can see, when you were born, what house was your moon in, because then that'll put a different flavor onto that specific component of human design. So they are interconnected, and then for that moment of design and then the moment of birth, and then they kind of are separate until you are able to utilize the astrology and layer it on top to then further support whatever it is that you're trying to navigate.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they do work together.
Yes.
Is that the same with the chakra system as well? Or how is the
So
chakra system? Yeah.
yeah, so it's a little bit with the other. So the chakra system and the I Ching, with those, it's more so that there's like the historical connection. So whereas traditional yoga says that there's 7 chakras, and so when it comes to human design, there is a concept that we have evolved from 7-centered to 9-centered beings. So that's where the chakras kind of came from and grew to with human design. So there's more that we'll talk about and how that came about. And then the same thing with the I Ching, there's the lines and the profiles. So those really kind of connect on that layer to what we talked about when it comes to those specific components. Whereas if you're familiar with the I Ching, they have the lines as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
great. I see a question here. How much leeway does a chart's moon have if one doesn't have a birth time?
So
Good
that is
question.
a really great question. So what is the best recommendation if you don't know your birth time? Because it can, your birth chart can vary as much as minute to minute. I actually have, interestingly enough, this is very rare. I have 3 sets of twins that I have worked with so far. And I've worked with each twin separately. And no matter how close they are, even minutes apart, their human design charts are different. And so it's really interesting when they look at each other's chart and they're like, whoa, yeah, that's totally you and that's totally me. So the minutes do make a difference, but I will say, again, the recommendation would be if you have anybody that knows even what time of day you were born. So, say in the morning, from say like 8 to 12, or if you have somebody that says, oh, I think it was, afternoon, 12 to 4, evening, middle of the night. So, kind of if you can get a little bit of a gauge, that's going to be helpful. And then from there, once you know what general time of the day, it's recommended that you just kind of pick a time that's in the middle of that, I guess, portion of the day and enter that into the human design software where you can pull up your chart and see how that resonates with you. See how that sits with you. Do you feel like there are components that make sense, that feel like your authentic self? Or does it feel really far off? And if it does, I would suggest that you pick another time. If you have nobody that can give you any reference point, then we always just go with 12 noon on that day. And so from there, as you start to learn about, if you pull up the chart at 12 noon, then as you start to explore the different components, you may very well be able to start just gravitating towards one or another based off of how you're feeling, again, what the pull, what the energy is telling you, and kind of sort that out for yourself, and then just continuing to dig a little bit deeper, because really it's about making sure, it's about experimenting with it, right? And making sure that whatever we talk about feels right with you. That's really what it's all meant to do. So I would encourage, if you want to start with that 12 noon, go with the components that are there and start to experiment with those variables. And if those don't necessarily resonate or that doesn't work for you, then maybe try another one on. So, but yeah, that is a tough one.
Thanks for your question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if somebody's brand new coming to this course for human design, they'll get to learn their type, right? Is that
Yes.
what? Yes. So what else are the components of the type that they will learn, and how
Yes.
does that
So,
benefit them?
and what was the last part?
And how does that benefit them in their life from knowing what type you are?
Yeah, so aside from just that baseline of knowing your energy type, because that's really what most people do learn about. Just as someone put in the chat, so there's a way that we kind of speak in human design. So I'm something called a 1-3 sacral generator, and so knowing those different variables will really give you a good sense of how to start to move into alignment and start to utilize your energy, your strategy, your authority more efficiently. And so those will really help you to encounter a lot less friction in your life. You will start to see that there's fewer roadblocks, or even just like bumps in the road. one of the ways that I like folks to experiment that we're going to talk about in the course too, but I love for them to learn about their decision making authority. And then the best way to play with that is this age old debate. If you have a friend or a partner and you're like, what do you want to eat for dinner? Right? Something that can start off so menial and seemingly insignificant, but can sometimes just the constant everydayness of it can make it a difficult question. And so for me, for example, being a sacral generator, it wasn't helpful when my partner would say, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, I don't know. There's too many options when you say that. And so there's a different way that you want to start to have your partner or your friend ask that same question so that it resonates better, or it gives your specific authority an easier way to respond to it. And so I've noticed for myself, I need my husband, for example, to say, do you want Mexican food? And just give me one option at a time. And then as a generator, a sacral generator in particular, I just listen to my gut, because my strategy, and again, I'm just using a lot of words from human design, but you'll learn all this. My strategy is to respond. And so all I need is one thing at a time to respond to, versus him giving me an open-ended question. And so from there, I just respond yes or no. And then he just kind of goes down the list. How about Thai food? How about, whatever it is. And so that has alone saved us so much headache and struggle with the back and forth. So it's that's a fun way to go about it. But then once you start to use it in these smaller ways, and you start to be able to tap into things more and really start to realign and get back to the true essence of yourself, you can start to utilize that again once you've built that trust, and move it into bigger things, into broader questions, into bigger arenas. Do I want to stay in this job? Do I want to start a company? How should I should our family move? All of these bigger questions that can have such an impact on how you are in life and how you show up as a person. Human design can really help you kind of, again, find that settled feeling and come back to who you are, so you're no longer cramping yourself into a box and fitting into everybody else's expectations. Because when we all just live by our unique design, because we are all different inherently, all of our bases will be covered. First of all, it's not like everybody's going to feel like quitting work and becoming a farmer. Some people are not into that. So it's about leaning into what you are meant to do, who you're meant to be, your life themes, and then that in alone will help raise the collective. Sorry, long-winded answer, but yeah, there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I love that. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it gives you permission to be yourself in a way.
Yes,
Right. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I liked what you said. I wrote it down at the beginning of your slides. You said navigate with more ease. So
Yes.
navigate life with more ease. And that just seems to flow really nicely. Yeah.
Oh man, that has been one of the biggest things for me when I was working in corporate. I found myself saying, oh man, I'm so frustrated all the time. And that was before I even knew that in human design, my not self theme was frustration. And so I'm like, wow, I was definitely not doing the right thing. So now it's just, when I find that feeling again, I'm like, oh, I know that feeling. Time to, that's those bumpers. Time to course correct and change something up so I don't feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I think that's a great note to end on, unless we have any more questions. And we will be sending this recording out, and we look forward to beginning with you in 2 weeks from today. So if anybody has any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Michelle or I. And yeah, we'll look forward for a nice 4-week journey together in June. All right.
Yes, definitely looking forward to it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you
Thank you,
all. Have
Nicole.
a great night. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you. Mhm.